Hello everyone, today's lesson is lesson 36, identifying the number of years in a decade, a century, and a millennium, and then multiplying by 10, 100, 1,000, and 10,000 using mental computation. So there are some special words we use when we talk about groups of years. So one decade is a group of 10 years. Okay. So if you're more than 10 years old, you have been alive for 1 decade. Okay. So if you're 2 decades old, that means that you are 20 years old, because that's 2 groups of 10 years. Okay. So if I have 3 decades, that would be 3 groups of 10 years. That would equal 30 years. Okay, all the way up to 9 groups of 10 years. And that would equal 90 years. Okay, so if you notice, anytime we're multiplying by a 10, my answer ends in 10. Okay, the answer is always the number I multiply with a 0 at the end. Okay, so if I have, for example, if I have 29 times 10, or 29 groups of 10, my answer will be the number I multiply by, so 29, with a 10 at the end of it. So 29 times 10 is 290. What about 42 times 10, or 42 groups of 10? Well, my answer will be the number I multiply by, so 42, with 10 at the end. So 42 times 10 is 420. Now, people who have lived for 100 years are called centenarians. Ooh, that's a hard word to say. They have been alive for 1 century. A group of 100 years is a century. So, if we have 2 centuries, that's going to be 200 years. Or we have 2 groups of 100 equals 200. Okay. If I have 3 centuries, that would be 3 groups of 100, which equals 300. 4 centuries would be 4 groups of 100, which equals 400. All the way up to 9 groups of 100 equals 900. And 10 groups of 100 equals 1,000. Now, if you notice on this one, each of the answers are the number we multiply by with 2 zeros at the end. 2 times 100 is the 2 with 2 zeros at the end. 3, and then 2 zeros at the end. Even the 10, still we have a 10 and then 2 zeros are at the end. Okay, so if I have 29 times 100, well, my answer will be the number I'm multiplying by, so 29, and then I'll put 2 zeros at the end. So 29 times 100 is 2,900, or we could say 2,900. What about 42 times 100? Well, the answer is going to be the number I multiply by, so 42, and then I'll have 2 zeros at the end. So 42 groups of 100 is 4,200, or 4,200. Now, a group of 1,000 years is called a millennium. 1 millennium equals 1,000 years. Okay, if there's 2 millenniums, then that would be 2,000 years. We also have millennia is another way to say multiples, but millenniums is fine. So 2 groups of 1,000 equals 2,000. Okay. 3 groups of 1,000 equals 3,000. 5 groups of 1,000 equals 5,000. 7 groups of 1,000 equals 7,000. And 10 groups of 1,000 equals 10,000. Do you see the pattern here? Anytime we multiply by 1,000, my answer is always the number we multiply by with 3 zeros after it. Okay, 2 with 3 zeros. Same with 10, you have a 10 and then you have 3 zeros after it. Okay, so what is 29 times 1,000? So it's going to be the number I multiply by, 29, with 3 zeros after it. So my answer is 29,000. For 42 times 1,000, my answer is going to be 42 with 3 zeros after it. So 42,000. Okay. All right, we can do the same thing with multiplying by 10,000. So 3 times 10,000 is the same as 30,000. As you can see, it's the number we multiply by with 4 zeros after it. 9 times 10,000 is 90,000 because it's 9 with 4 zeros after it. 14 times 10,000, that's going to be 14 with 4 zeros after it. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 14 times 10,000 is 140,000. Okay, so let's do these problems. We have 18 times 10, 18 times 100, 18 times 1,000, and 18 times 10,000. So 18 times 10 is 180 because it's the number we multiply with 1 zero. 18 times 100 is 1,800 because it's 18 with 2 zeros after it. 18 times 1,000 is 18,000 because it's 18 with 3 zeros at the end. And 18 times 10,000 is going to have 4 zeros at the end, 18 with 4 zeros on the end. So that's 180,000. All right, so let's figure out some time. So 7 decades equals how many years? Well, I know that a decade is 10 years. So we have 7 times, or groups of 10 years. So the answer is going to be 70. Okay, 8 centuries. Well, I know a century is 100 years. So this is actually 8 groups of 100 years. So that's going to equal 800 years. 4 millenniums. Well, I know a millennium is 1,000 years. So it's 4 groups of 1,000 years. So that's going to be 4,000 years. All right, so let's say the date is October 15th, 2020. So what date was it a decade ago? Well, a decade ago is 10 years ago. So that's going to be October 15th, 2010. Now notice the dates, the month and the day stay the same. It's only the year that's changing. Okay, what will it be 1 decade from now? Well, it'll be October 15th, 2030. What was it a century ago? Well, that's 100 years. So that would be October 15th, 1920. Okay, because 19 is 100 years before. Okay. All right, a century from now, well, that would be October 15th, 2120. A millennium ago, that's 1,000 years. So that would be October 15th, 1020. And a millennium from now would be October 15th, 3020. Okay, and that's it for this lesson. Good luck on your homework.